A Fox News alert, the nation bracing for what is expected to be an explosive hearing on Capitol Hill this morning. We're witnesses preparing to tell lawmakers that our own federal government has become the middleman in a multi-billion-dollar migrant child trafficking operation. Just let that sink in for a moment. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Wednesday morning. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Ashley Strohmeyer in for Carly Shimkus. The damning testimony will come from a woman who worked inside an inspector general's office at HHS who says, quote, today children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked. Whether intentional or not, it can be argued that the U.S. government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation run by bad actors seeking to profit off the lives of children. Brooke Singman has more on what we will hear today. Brooke.
Hey, good morning, Todd. Ashley, when child migrants are found at the border, they're transferred into the custody of Health and Human Services before being united with a sponsor, typically a parent or family member already in the U.S. Now, the volume of unaccompanied children stranded at the southern border has surged over the past 2 years, with more than 70,000 so far this fiscal year. But today's whistleblower testimony is expected to reveal how this surge is leading to an explosive growth in child labor and how the Biden administration is reportedly ignoring the warning signs. Now, one witness, an HHS whistleblower, is expected to explain, quote, I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with being recruited in their home country, smuggled to the U.S. border, and ends when the Office of Refugee Resettlement delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. And that's not to mention the incredible and dangerous trek these kids are forced to take to get here in the first place, with most of these children being dropped off by smugglers, putting intense pressure on border agents to care for them. Meanwhile, El Paso residents are warning that they won't have a normal life even when they are released into the U.S. Listen.
This is going to put a lot of pressure on not only the children, but on the teachers and on the school systems. And another thing I want to point out is a lot of these kids that are coming with their parents or some so-called parents do not have the same lifestyle that our American children have.
The city of El Paso plans to declare a state of emergency over the migrant crisis before Title 42's expiration date next month. No mention of overwhelmed El Paso, migrant children, or southern border at all in President Biden's re-election announcement yesterday. Guys, back to you.
Horrific. Brooke, thank you. Let's bring in Robert Henneke, the executive director of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He joins us now. Robert, how can any member of the Biden administration who is responsible for this horrific border policy, who may themselves also be a parent, how can that person sleep at night knowing this is being done to children?
Good morning. It's horrifying. 150,000 minor illegal immigrant children that have disappeared into this country, into what is a modern slavery ring, being facilitated by the Biden administration's trafficking of these children across the country to individuals, as your article mentioned, who some are criminals, and nobody knows what's happening to these children. It's the Biden administration. Look, it's the co-chair of the Biden campaign, Texas Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who represents El Paso, that may want to call home and inquire as to what's happening in her district with these migrant children that are being literally sold into slavery and human trafficking across the United States.
You know, the video we were just watching there at the edge of that water, I believe that was a 1.5 or 2-year-old that was dropped off at the edge of that water right there circled, and a Border Patrol agent, thank God, runs to save that little child. So it's not only dangerous when they get here, but it's dangerous getting here. And I think that really speaks volume. Did you see the cartel member just run off? So when you see stuff like this, I mean, controversy just keeps piling up on this administration. And, you know, regardless of the timing, no timing is good when you see stuff like this going on and you hear reports like this from whistleblowers. My question is, will the Biden administration ever start talking about it? Because I think Americans deserve to hear directly from the president about all of these controversies and these crises just piling up on them.
They deserve those answers. And this is the record that Joe Biden will have to run on as he has just recently reannounced his election for president. It's horrifying. It's awful. Awful is too mild a word to describe what happened to these children in the hands of the cartel members, in the hands of the traffickers, what it takes to get to this country, that one happens to them once they're literally just dumped off on the side of the United States and then delivered by these nonprofit NGOs to individuals who would not pass the normal kind of background checks that you would have for a typical child protective services type foster care relationship. I think the states need to step in, need to take control of these children and really make sure that where these nearly 750,000 children have been deposited into our country, we do our humanitarian duty to take care of them and to make sure that they are not abused and exploited.
The Biden administration has reportedly been unable to make contact with 85,000 of these children. Think about that for a